Welcome to This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon and Bryan Nale, your local experts on all things real estate in Middle Tennessee. Listen in as they discuss the current state of the market, the latest trends, and have a little fun while doing it. We do want to say the opinions voiced on this podcast are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individuals. All right, y'all, welcome back to another week of This Week in Real Estate, where we're putting a list in specialist.
That's not the direction I thought you were going to go there.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
We'll switch up.
I need a t-shirt that says that.
The listing specialist.
That's it. The listing specialist.
Yeah.
Okay. Good one, Trent.
Thanks. That
Way
was
to go,
Missy.
buddy.
That was Missy. As
And
always.
Missy has left the building.
Yeah.
She's not in the studio
Shout out
right
to
now.
Missy, as always.
Yep. Always a fan. That was a good one, Missy. Way to go. Let's jump into this, man.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've kind of, this whole thing that I've been saying about everybody's got anxiety over different things, and you know, some people are anxious about certain things and some are anxious about others. Hey, Cammie, what's up, girl?
Next to me.
Yep, that's something to not be anxious about.
Usually Cammie like does this before we go live, and then by the time we go live, she's bored with us. But today she's like
Coming up, come on,
coming
let's go.
on down.
Come on. There you go. Okay, that's
This
great.
is great radio.
This is fantastic. Who doesn't love Cammie the Wonder Dog?
Nobody.
You know? Yep, she's awesome. So, like, I'm feeling the anxiety, man.
Yeah.
And it's just right now. It's kind of like this generalized anxiety thing, where like you're about to rattle off 3 headlines, and every single one of those causes me anxiety. I know they cause you anxiety as well.
Yeah.
And they're all tied to different things, and like we can analyze the crap out of them. But it is, you know, it's all going to end up in the same place, and that is in my medication drawer.
Well, I've
You know what I mean?
got a surprise 4th headline that may be a dose of medicine.
All right. Well, other thing, everybody has noticed this morning that I'm wearing a jacket.
Yeah.
And that's not a normal thing for me.
No, it's not.
However, I've been having conversations just over the last several months or whatever with Mr. Brad Hopkins over at Exit Realty, and you know, Brad's a good dude. We've had him on the show a couple times, and he explained to me why. So this is
That's
he
the Brad
usually has a
Hopkins
collar
uniform.
on his shirt.
Yeah.
But this is the Brad Hopkins uniform.
Yeah.
And he explained to me why, and it was brilliant. I'm like, I want to be more like Brad.
He's like, you know, in my business, I can be, I can wear, dark jeans, button-up shirt and a blazer, and I can be, I can go from a meeting in Brentwood dressed like this to walk in a field, walking a property line.
I think he birthed a cow in a coat once.
He might have.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Brad does a lot.
Brad does. He's amazing.
But yeah, it's and there's definitely been times where I'm like, hey, you know, I'm gonna dress like Brad today. A lot of times I just go with a golf shirt, but
Yeah. I'm going to start wearing a bracelet that's WWBD.
I'm Bryan.
Yeah, no, it's not Bryan. Yeah. Anyway, the Brad Love Fest is strong today.
Strong today.
Well,
It's
you
strong.
wanna hear these headlines?
Let's do it. Headlines.
All right, back to you.
So I just glanced over on Trent's screen.
Yeah.
And I guess I've just never caught it. There's an old dude reading a newspaper when they do it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I know.
Okay.
Come on, production
Carry on.
value here.
So in show prep today, I told Jonathan I'm just going to rattle off 3 headlines, and I mean, there's not a lot of reason to get into meat and potatoes of them.
Well, the first 2 that you said, they tie together.
They do.
And I'd like to expand on that, but you go ahead.
So the first one is existing home sales at 5-month lows. Mm-hmm. Very next headline. This is all from Mortgage
By the way,
News
5
Daily.
months lows, and 5 months ago, that was probably 2-year low.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And then the very next, this is all from Mortgage News Daily. If you have the app and you open up today, these should be the headlines. I don't think they feed based on different algorithms. I think they're just pretty consistent.
Sure.
The very next headline is new home sales running near highest pace since 2022.
Okay.
So the first one is existing home sales at 5-month lows. And then very next one, new home sales running near highest pace since 2022.
Those 2 work together. We'll explain later.
The third one is mortgage applications dropped sharply in response to recent rate spike. Mm-hmm. And I told you, I was like, these 3 headlines are the reasons that Bryan Nale has stress.
Yeah, no doubt. So, all right, so let's unpack that for just a sec. We're not going to spend a great ton of time on this. Home sales in general, 5-month low.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, that affects both of us.
Right.
The new home sale is increasing sharply.
Right.
Okay. Part of the reason for that, and this has been the case. I mean, new home sales have been up significantly over the last 2 years or so, 3 years, I guess. Anyway, but we're seeing this more and more, and the reason is the inventory shortage is, guess where? On existing homes.
Right.
And so new home inventory has not necessarily gone up. It stayed about the same, but as a percent of the market, it's gone up substantially.
Right.
Because existing homes there's so few listings of existing homes.
Since this is, and I'll click on the article here to kind of see what it says if it gets into this, but I wonder if some of this is builders increasing. Like if you go back and you look at housing starts from 5 months ago, or maybe 6 months ago, do you see a ramp up in starts so that the inventory for existing homes is kind of catching up to satiate the market's demand for homes?
I think you're going to see a little bit, maybe, perhaps, but it's going to be statistically insignificant. I think it's just that the amounts as a percentage of the total market are higher, right? Yeah. Now, here's the other thing, and I'll serve this up to you, and you can spike it. The reason that new home sales is causing Bryan stress, and also I think the reason is the same reason that we're seeing an increase in new home sales. I think that is the same exact reation, and you touched on this last week or the week before. So I'd like for you to kind of reiterate why that is.
There's incentives. You know, the builders are running specials and incentives. They have forward commitment money where they can charge lower than market interest rates.
Tell us what forward commitment money is.
They basically what they're doing is they're buying the borrower's rate down behind the scenes. And so they go out and they pay the discount points to the lender, to the funding entity that's funding the loans.
So they do it in bulk, right?
In bulk, and so they'll have a
Sam's Club pricing is what it amounts to.
They'll have $20 million of money that they've bought and they've bought that money at below market prices. So
and they bought it a month ago,
right?
And now when rates go up, it's almost like buying money futures.
Right. It's like that's a great way to say it. It's like buying money futures, and so they can put themselves out on a ledge when they do that, because if rates go down, then they're not as attractive and it's harder for them to get. It's not as incentivizing for them to offer that lower the market interest rate, because now they're lower the market interest rates a lot closer to the market than where they had anticipated it would go.
But third headline.
Third headline is mortgage applications are at 5 months lows because of the recent spike in interest rates.
So if there's a recent spike in your interest rate that you can offer, that forward committed money is very attractive.
And so there's a fourth headline, and that fourth headline is that for the first time in, what was it, a week or was it 10 days? No, that's not what it was. It was, it's now been more than a week since mortgage rates ended the day higher than the previous day. We haven't recovered quite as much ground as the 10-year Treasury yields.
Hang on, say that one more time.
It's been now more than a week since mortgage rates ended the day higher than the previous day.
Okay. So we're either flat or rates are dropping.
Rates have dropped a little bit. They've come
every
back
single day
for a week.
Okay.
They've come back to us a little bit.
Sorry, I had to think about how that was worded.
Yeah. So they haven't made quite up as much ground as the 10-year Treasury yields, which are getting close to fully re-entering the narrow range that persisted before the tariff announcement, but they're getting there. So all that being said, this is still what we're talking about is a choppy market. And when we're talking about these interest rates, bear in mind that we're not talking about the major wild swings that we saw in 2022 and 2023. All of this is happening in a pretty narrow range. Mm-hmm. And what's surprising to me, not to read the headline, but that it happened, is that mortgage applications dropped sharply in response to the rate spike, because that spike, while it was real, it was there, but we're talking about, rates going from maybe like 6.2, 6.3 to like 7, So like 75 basis points on rate,
Which is not nothing.
but it's not like that
When we skip the fours.
yeah, when we just skipped right through the fours, right into the mid fives from the low threes. So it wasn't that sharp of a rate, and it was rate spike, and it wasn't that prolonged either. Now that you see that it's starting to kind of level off, so hopefully it levels off in time for the spring buying season to fully take effect of it, in spring and summer buying season, because this is the time of year when a lot of people move. And we saw that last year, seasonality, and we'll see it again this year, I believe. And so it would be great for all of these home buyers who want to make moves this summer if rates are lower for them through the next 4 months.
But here's the thing, and the older I get, the more of these cycles that we live through, and the more, political posturing that we see from whoever happens to be in charge or what, it doesn't matter who it is, right? The more we realize just how sensational our media is.
Yeah.
And so, just choosing a word, mortgage applications are down to whatever low amidst the recent spike. Okay. Those are some triggering words that prolong and exacerbate the anxiety that people already have.
Yeah.
What they could have said is, hey, we have fewer applications than we did this time last year, which actually it doesn't sound like we do if it's only a 5-month low.
Yeah.
Right. So, 5 months ago, what's 5 months ago from here? That's December.
November.
Yeah. So, it is actually probably not, like, if we unpack this, we should have more applications now than we did in November.
Yeah.
We should. But we don't, and that's okay. But it's amidst a rate spike. Well, really, it's a rate increase. It's not necessarily a spike, except that it all happened in one day.
Yeah.
Right. But what it all comes down to is we have volatility within a narrow range, and that's pretty normal.
I think that's the key thing to kind of drive right there is that and if you asked anybody, if you're at, like, I shouldn't say that, but my take on this market, this is Bryan Nale's opinion. This isn't, the bank.
This is not necessarily reflective views and opinions.
This is my opinion, and that's that I think that we're going to see this year rates are going to kind of hover between the mid sixes and low sevens, and there's going to be periods of volatility where maybe we dip down a little bit below the mid sixes, and there's going to be periods of volatility where maybe we bounce up over the low sevens. But for the most part, for this year, I think we're going to be pretty stable in that range.
And in my opinion, if you keep it within 1 percentage point,
yeah,
right, you no matter, even when we had 2% interest rates,
yeah,
it still fluctuated every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so there's always volatility in that because it's reacting to human emotions.
Yeah.
Right. There's always volatility. So when you read a headline like that, a rate spike, and it's 3/4 of a point, interest point, then it's like, okay, is that really a spike? I mean, you use your judgment on that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happened in one day. Well, volatility within that. Yeah. Now, if it goes 1.5% higher, that's I'm freaking out on that.
That's a big move. Well, and I think that's the key thing is like what happened and what happened to cause the rate spike. Conversation about tariffs, not just conversation, but tariffs
implementation,
tariffs being announced. Mm-hmm. What's happened since then? That's all been kind of slowly walked back.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it faster than others, and so as it's been walked back, the market's had time to kind of ease off of that quote unquote spike in interest rates and get back to closer to where the range was. It's getting back closer to where that range was before that announcement on April 2nd. And all this happened on April 2nd. That's when the announcement of tariffs hit, was April 2nd. So like we're not even a month away from there, and we've already kind of changed course 2 or 3 times, it feels like, on what we're going to do with tariffs.
Yeah. And it always drives me crazy. You see this with gas prices a lot of times, right? Historically, right? This one isolated thing happens way over here, and it's like, oh, yeah. And it's almost like the powers that be, look for reasons to gouge you a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not gouge. There's a sensational word, poke you a little bit.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
So anyway, and then they back off of it, and it's like, oh, look, rates have come down, or go back to gas prices. Okay. You go from $2 a gallon to $3 a gallon, and then it sits there for a minute, and then it drops down to $2.50 a gallon. And you're like, ooh, gas prices have come down.
Yay.
You're 50 cents above where you were.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, rates have come down.
Yeah.
You're still 0.5% higher than where you were.
Yeah.
So it's just, man, just take a minute when you feel yourself get anxious. Take a minute, read those headlines a little bit more,
Yeah.
and then think about what, with the word choice right here,
Yeah.
what were they trying to get at? And am I reacting the way that the person that wrote this wants me to react?
And if you're in the market, if you're thinking about buying, call your real estate agent, call your mortgage lender, and have a conversation. Hey, and hopefully they're reaching out to you. Hopefully your mortgage lender is reaching out to you and saying, hey, since we started talking, rates have moved a little bit. Here's where things are now. You know, it's not what it was when we talked 2 weeks ago. Or hey, you know, and sometimes it's like, hey, you know, we talked last week and rates were going to be like, you know, 9, and today they're going to be 8. So, and you know, obviously I'm just throwing out random numbers there, but the point there
You're
is,
such a rule follower.
the point there is that you, sometimes these, you know, depending on when you had your first conversation, things might be better for you.
Well, and 0.75% can make a difference if you're pushing the upper end of your affordability.
Sure can.
Right. So, I mean, it's not nothing. I'm not saying that it's not nothing, but I'm saying that the headlines make it out to be more than it is if you prepare yourself and you have good advisors.
Well, and that's where I think you've got to understand what caused the market to move and what's going to, and where is it going to go next? And
Yeah.
you don't have a crystal ball, but you should be able to look at some tea leaves. And so as you're looking at that and going, okay, well, it's spiked.
Is there a tariff on tea?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Boston Tea Party?
I think it's back. I think the tariff on tea is back, which is so funny to me.
funny.
But anyway.
Well, we once threw a revolution because we didn't want tariffs. So there's that. Hey, what was I saying? Where's it going to go? Okay, so
Yeah.
when rates shot up to 75 basis points, you know, where were they going to go from there? Were they going to continue to track upwards? Or because some days it feels like that. Some days you're like, golly, rates are getting hammered today, and they got hammered yesterday, and like, where's the end? Well, look for the headlines that are going to cause the next headline. Mm-hmm. And when you start to see softening talk on tariffs and walking stuff back, then you start to see, okay, well, then that means that rates shouldn't continue to go up. They should kind of taper back off.
I want to bring up another headline we talked about off camera, and I didn't know much about this, and y'all educated me a little bit. So this whole Amazon thing. Yeah. So apparently Amazon was going to be very transparent, which is great, and say, here's the price, here's the tariff, here's the new price. And I guess they got a lot of pressure from
the White House.
From the White House and said, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's, what was it, hostile?
Political, hostile. Yeah.
And so they're backing off of it.
Yeah.
Man, I implore you, Amazon.
Yeah.
Be transparent.
Yeah.
So I say this all the time as a self-employed person. I write a check once a quarter to the federal government to pay my income taxes.
Yeah.
Right. So I stroke a check every quarter. I know exactly how much money I have paid the federal government in taxes. Okay. If you're a W-2 employee, right, without looking, I would ask you, how much have you paid in taxes? The smartest thing that the federal government ever did to protect themselves was to put their hand into your paycheck before you got a chance to touch it.
Yeah.
That's the smartest thing they've ever done, right?
Sure.
And so you probably don't have a clue. I mean, you probably have a clue, but you probably don't really know how much you pay in taxes because you never get that money.
Most Americans know if they got a refund or they had to write a check.
That's about it. And if I ask somebody, and I know you do this all the time, how much do you make? They're going to tell you, I bring home blah, blah, blah every 2 weeks, 1 week, month, whatever, right? That's not how much you make.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot more than that you make.
Yeah.
And so the one of the best tools to keep a populace uneducated is to hide what you're actually paying. And you know, the gas pumps, we keep talking about gas. If you pay attention at the gas pump, there's a little sticker on there that says,
how much is taxes?
This price is this, and this, and it breaks it down. Same thing in healthcare. I mean, like there's so many places that people hide what you're paying, right? So I would say, I don't know, man. We do what's the petition company? What's it called?
Change now, change.org.
One of those, change.org or whatever. Let's make a petition or whatever, and let's get Amazon to put those tariffs on there.
Let's see it.
You know, I mean, I want to see it.
Yeah.
Right. I keep seeing prices go up, and I know why, but I don't really know why.
Right.
I want to see my $2 item from China that was $1.50 is now $2.50. How much of that is them gouging me, and how much of that is
tariff?
Is a tariff?
Yeah.
If 85 cents of that is a tariff, I know exactly what this policy is costing me.
Yeah. And if it's and if none of it's a tariff, then you know that the company is just taking advantage of the headline to make more profit.
I want to know.
I want to know. Yeah.
I don't think that's unreasonable, and I definitely don't think it's hostile. You know, I think it's transparency. I think it's good business practice.
When is an informed consumer populace ever been something that we would think is hostile?
Boston Tea Party.
Nice segue.
Let's pull it all back together.
Let's go back to This Is Real now.
Yes, yes, indeed. This is real. Coming up. This is pretty gross.
Oh no.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much here in so little. Number one, I'm assuming this is a basement.
I don't know. I think it might be an exterior shot.
Ooh, could be. Could be. Hot take on that. Maybe. So obviously they've got I cannot test this. I do not have a petri dish, but there is some type of what is it that Jim calls it? A suspicious microbial substance on the wall there. And
Quite a bit of it.
I'd say they have a moisture issue, probably.
It's safe to say.
Yep, but they live in this moisture issue with those chairs. So either they're not worried about their lungs or they're not worried about that suspicious microbial substance.
I think this is outdoors. My first thought was basement.
It's tall.
But then I'll see how tall it is. That would be a very tall basement.
That's a good point.
I think this is an exterior shot, and it's probably looks like there might be a structure to the right. So it's just like it doesn't get much sun. It's like a slot canyon.
What?
It's almost like a slot canyon.
I'm familiar with slot machines.
Slot canyon, you got tall walls on either side, and so if there's no moisture, it's obviously dry. You see those in like the desert, like out in Arizona and Utah, a bunch of great slot canyons to hike. But then those that get wet, you have to wade through them because the water doesn't evaporate because the sun only passes over it.
I see.
For a short period of time, and so water can pool in the slot canyon, and they can be a lot of fun to navigate. I've never been in one like that, but
interesting. Yeah. Regardless,
they're
of what
working on it though.
is,
There's a paint bucket with a paintbrush hanging out.
There is, and maybe that's all black paint because that bucket could be black paint.
No,
I don't think so
It's
either.
like no.
So maybe it's the worst paint job ever. Either way, there is zero chance that this should be on the MLS.
yes, that's the moral of the story.
I mean, it's got to go in the property condition disclosure, though, right?
That too.
I mean, it should. Yeah.
Hopefully they.
Wow.
All right.
They have eyes. They can.
Cheers
see
to
that.
you.
They got eyes. They can see that.
All right. What else we got?
That's discrimination against blind people, Trent.
Oh dear.
Oh, man.
I didn't mean to do that. All right. What else we got?
So I gotta tell a story real quick. Wait, where were we at?
We could go to Shiny Penny or Pro Tip.
Which one you want to do?
Pro tip.
Pro tip? I got a pro tip.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm looking at Trent's screen each time. It was just a static.
It's a way to know when the show's back.
Yeah. So I had a call the other day, and you guys may or may not know this, but there at least used to be. I haven't heard about this in quite a while. But our MLS, Real Tracks, used to essentially hire or sub out secret shoppers. Right, they call them testers.
Yeah.
And so they would call random real estate agents, and sometimes it would be some absurd situation, and just see if that agent knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. and follows all the rules. And you could get fines from it.
Do this in the mortgage business too.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure do.
And so they're testing. Well, I got a call the other day, and I don't know that it was a tester, but it was definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay. And this person, the pro tip comes in from make sure that you're hiring an agent that knows the rules. And so this person said, hey, I've got a house in a pretty exclusive neighborhood here in town. So very attractive listing. He said he fired an agent, and he fired the agent. I said, well, anytime that somebody's like, I fired my agent, I'm like, my spidey senses go off a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, why did you fire that agent? Because there's a decent chance that I'll agree with that agent, which means you'll fire me at some point.
Coin flip at least.
Yeah, it's a coin flip. And so he starts to tell me this story, and I'm like, And finally I said, I don't think you should have fired your agent over this. And he was like, really? And I said, yeah. I said, your agent was right. And basically it came down to fair housing. And, there's some very specific rules under fair housing that are not gray. They are black and white.
Yeah.
Right. You can't say, I don't want to sell my house to, and then list off anybody from all the protected status.
Classes, yeah.
Right. And there's several.
Yeah.
Okay. And then National Association of Realtors has even added a couple more within our code of ethics. It's awesome. I'm a fan of this. Okay. But then the gray area comes with how you control stuff like showings at your house. Okay. And the rules, if you know the rules, make it fairly black and white. So I'll give you a for example. Okay. Let's say that, and I'll just say it the way that I want to say it. Okay. So you're just going to have to get over it. All right. I'm sitting here and I say, hey, Bryan, I don't want you to show my house to any black people. Doesn't matter what my reason is.
Yeah.
And I say that to you. You absolutely cannot do what I just said I want you to do.
Right.
You can't do it.
Cannot do that.
That is, and you shouldn't.
You shouldn't
do that.
Let's be clear. You should not.
And you can't either by law and by our code of ethics. Okay. That is 100% a fair housing violation. Okay. Well, one of the other status, whatever items in there is what they call familial status. Okay. And familial status is an interesting one. So this would be, they have to be married. Yeah. They can't be married. They have to have children.
I only want to sell this house to
a family with kids,
with a boy and a girl and 2 dogs. You can't say stuff like that.
Or under only very specific circumstances can you say a family that doesn't have kids. Yeah. Right. So 55 plus communities have an exception to that. And is very, very specific. Like you got to really toe the line on what you do with that. Well, this particular person said, I do not want any children to be present at showings. Now, the logic was sound, right? Yeah. And he said, I don't care who buys the house, but I don't want any kids walking through my house at showings. And I said, man, that's gray. And I said, that's not a battle I want to fight. So I turned down and told him to move on to somebody else. Yeah. And it was probably $1.5 million listing.
Oh my gosh.
Because here's the other thing. If you're telling me that, there's a decent chance that there's going to be something else that comes up. Yeah. That you're going to ask me to do. And when I tell you I can't do that, you're going to push back on me. Yeah. So we're probably going to come to a head anyway. Yeah. Yeah. And especially when I explained, I obviously can't discriminate for a showing on race.
Sure, of course.
And guess what? Race is listed in familial status. It's the same, or it's not listed in it, but in the same sentence
category
as familial status. So if I definitely can't do that, it's treated the exact same way. I can't do this either. Yeah. And if I said, well, I don't mind selling my house to somebody within that status, but I just don't want to show it to them. Yeah. I don't think you can do that.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, he's not saying that he doesn't want to show them a family that has kids' house. He's just saying he doesn't want kids coming through his house.
And I think that would invite.
Yeah, that's inviting consternation.
So anyway, I turned it down.
Yeah, I think that was probably good.
Yeah. So pro tip is listen to your agent when they start talking about stuff like this.
Well, and so that's why he fired his agent, because he did not want, his agent said, no, we cannot say that. Mm-hmm. We can't deny. And how would you do that? What would you say? Like, would you just put it in the MLS as a private remark that no kids can come to showings? Like, how would you even do that?
I don't know. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's,
I'm just saying, like, if you didn't think that was a gray area, if you thought that was okay to do, how would you communicate that was the situation? You'd have to put it in the MLS.
I mean,
you'd have to just
showing instructions,
whenever showing instructions, or whenever you call me and say, "Hey, we want to show your listing." I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. It's available Thursday at 3:00 for a listing or for a showing."
By the way, don't bring your kids.
Don't bring kids.
Okay, then we'll cancel the showing.
Yeah, because I mean,
my kids are going to live here.
Out of school, I'm gonna have to have my kids with me.
I don't know, man.
That's really weird.
And I mean, and his logic was he had an experience at one point where somebody brought their kids and they didn't supervise their kids. This happens,
yeah,
right? And the kid got mud on a sofa.
Yeah,
I get it.
Tough.
I get it. But if you've got a publicly listed house,
yeah.
And this is the other thing I told him. I was like, look, man, you're not bound by the same rules if you go for sale by owner.
Yeah.
So if you're really passionate about this, and you're adamant that this is how you're going to do it, you either need to find a shady agent or go for sale by owner.
Yeah. There's so many good agents in that community. Unfortunately, there's shady ones too. Same with lenders. There's a lot of great lenders, a lot of great title companies, but there's some that will always kind of be willing to bend a rule or take a chance on something. And then eventually those folks do get popped and fined.
Yeah. Now, it's also, Bryan, full disclosure, it is entirely possible that I'm dead wrong about this.
You could be.
That's entirely possible.
That could be okay to do. And if anybody is watching this show, made it through this segment, or not this segment, but this show this far into the,
and I'm wrong, please
put a comment.
me.
If you got any experience, let us know.
Tell me why I'm wrong, and tell me where I can find proof that I'm wrong.
If you've experienced this. This isn't that outlandish, and somebody may not have experienced it.
Yep. And I'm the first to admit, I do not know everything within this industry. Yeah. I just know what I think I know.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Shiny penny?
Yeah.
What you got? You guys?
Back to you.
What is it?
Customer service. If you we were Jonathan and I were doing some shopping yesterday for his customer appreciation event that's coming up on May 8th, next Thursday, a week from tomorrow. It's coming up fast.
Way too fast.
And so we were in Nashville, and we were at a big wine store. Like, they got just an outstanding selection of wines.
And I was really digging the store.
And it's a great selection of beers too. All the liquors that you can imagine. Like, this is one of those shops that you go in and it's big, and they got a bunch of stuff and cool stuff
and weird stuff and old stuff.
Yeah. And so we're perusing in the aisles, and we've been in there for 30 minutes. We have a cart full of wine and still adding to it. And
I'd polished off a Red Bull right before we walked in.
When we first walked in, we'd just driven up from Nashville or from Murfreesboro. And so as we were walking in, I was looking for a restroom. I didn't see one. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just get our shopping done and get out of here. And then Jonathan decided he didn't need to wait any longer. And he asked if they had a restroom they could use. And they were like, no.
Yeah. First I said, do you have a restroom? And he said, no. And I said, you don't have a restroom in this building? Well, not one for public use. And I was like, even for somebody that's about to drop an obscene amount of money in your store? No, there's a hotel next door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I said, do you see the cart? And the guy knows that we talked to. You told him what we were doing and what it was for, and that it's an annual event. So this is an opportunity to gain what I would call a channel account. Yeah. Right?
And it's funny to me that we're having this conversation on the heels of the one that we just had, because in the customer service business, you have, if you've worked in any organization that takes customer service seriously, you've heard like the P word is a filthy word. Don't lean on policy. Don't say it's our policy not to do this. You have to understand that and read the room. And sometimes there are rules that you cannot break. There are things that you cannot make a sacrifice on, like a fair housing issue. That's not just a policy. That's an ethical decision that you make.
It's your character.
It's a character issue. Yeah. Letting a customer use a restroom
And then like, oh, he didn't say this, but I'm thinking now, oh, if I let you use it, and I have to let everybody. There was nobody else in the store.
Yeah, it was like what 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. Like,
There was no one in there.
yeah, it was just distributors walking through the aisles, like
Right.
selling them more alcohol. Anyway, so if you're in customer service, and honestly, in this economy that we're in right now, everybody is. You either have internal customers that you serve or external customers that you serve. Go the extra mile.
You take care of your people.
Take care of your people. You know, what ended up happening for them is I checked out immediately. Jonathan left the store. I checked out immediately. Stopped all my shopping. I had a few more things I needed to buy. We went down the street, 3 miles to the next store. Which,
Got outstanding service.
outstanding service. Much smaller, more boutique. Still some really cool stuff.
Let's shout them out. Grand Crew,
Grand Crew in Nashville took great care of us yesterday. We finished up our shopping.
Wally.
Got the
Wally's
last
the
things
guy.
that we needed, and they pointed us on a couple of things. Jonathan, we're doing a spotlight on France. Jonathan picked up an Armagnac. I picked up some Burgundies at a price point that was much more favorable than the price point that I was going to probably be buying some Burgundy wine at the other store. So yeah, shout out to Grand Crew for a great experience yesterday.
Yep. I'm a fan. Little shop. They're the type that if you said, hey, I really want this, and they don't have it on the shelves, I'm 100% certain that Wally would be like, but I can have it for you in
he'd figure
4
it out.
days or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
So be Wally. Be
Take care of
Grand
your
Crew.
people.
Take care of your people.
Good stuff.
There's the shiny penny.
Yeah,
Grand
that's
Crew.
a shiny penny for sure. You want to shout out all the events and stuff?
Oh my gosh, there's so many, dude. I'm running ragged right now. I know Bryan is too. So this weekend, let's see, what do we got this weekend? Shakespeare is Friday night. Also Friday night here at Cedar Glade. We've got the MTSU student film showcase. So the department over there, Paul Chilson's group, they produce these short student films. So they're coming in and doing a full red carpet event here at CGB that starts at 7:30. It's going to be amazing. So I'm so looking forward to that. Let's see, what do we got? Saturday, we've got a show. Tony Claire is playing on the patio. The patio last night, man, Ozzy was here. We did Singo, and the patio was amazing. It was quiet out there, but the temperature was great. So by 5 o'clock, our patio is incredible. And Tony Claire will be playing Saturday. But the big one,
Big time.
yep, Cedar de Mayo, Cedar de Mayo, as however you want to say it, is happening on Monday. We always do that on Cinco de Mayo. And we've got Tennessee Craft Butcher. Our friend Andy over there is bringing, what's it called? The meat wagon,
Yeah,
I think is what it's called.
like
Doing some real fajitas, doing the real deal.
It's going to be good stuff.
Oh my gosh. Those guys are incredible.
Yeah.
They're weird and fun and funny and incredible cooks. I just love them. Anyway, so they'll be here doing that. We're releasing El Cedro Mexican Lager, and it's going to be a good time. Our friend Mina is going to be here with House of Cigar. So we'll have a little cigar lounge set up in the back if that's your thing. It's just going to be a chill, fun way to celebrate. Was it the battle? 1865. I can't remember.
It was a battle. It's not their Independence Day.
No, it's not. It was a battle.
Cinco de Mayo is the way that I think of it. Is it's a celebration of an important victory.
Yeah.
It's not their actual Independence Day. It's a celebration of an important victory. So
Yeah. It's gonna be a good time.
Dropping dimes on the way out. I love it. All right, y'all. Good show. We'll see y'all next time.
all right.
Cheers.
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 Thank you for listening to another episode of This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon and Bryan Nale, your go-to resource for all things real estate in Middle Tennessee. Be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. We will see y'all on the next one.
Now for the nitty-gritty. Primis Mortgage Company is a subsidiary of Primis Bank, a member FDIC. Primis Mortgage NMLS number 1894879, BK number 1042893, ML number 1894879. As always, all loans are subject to credit approval and product guidelines. Equal housing lender.